It is being called a new era of authoritarian aggression. 11 ships from Russia and China reportedly conducting a joint naval drill not far from Alaska's Aleutian Islands last week. And while they didn't actually cross into United States territory, experts are calling it the largest flotilla of Chinese and Russian ships to approach America's shores. The U.S. dispatching 4 warships in response to it. A military official telling the Wall Street Journal the Russia and China patrol was, quote, not considered a threat. But let's now bring in retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General Richard Newton, News Nation senior national security contributor. General, always good to see you. We know the ships have now since left, but how concerned should Americans be that 2 of our biggest adversaries are conducting these types of drills right near our waters?
Well, good morning, Marquis. First, this is unprecedented. It's a close cooperation between these 2 navies now, China and Russia. They have formed up that joint maritime task force that you alluded to last week. 11 ships, and it is significant because they're now, I believe we're now in an era of great power competition. And the fact that the United States is coming out of several years of engagement in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now you've got Ukraine and Russia war, and you've got lots of aggression from the Chinese demonstrated in the Taiwan Strait and so forth. Now they're moving, they're trying to create a sphere of influence now, even up to what we call the high north, up in the Arctic region, as you referred to. And so this is significant. It's also unprecedented. It's something that we got to keep a very close eye on.
Yeah, and it certainly does seem like a provocative move given the timing of war in Ukraine, tensions with Taiwan. What do you make of the timing of it? Is this a direct response to U.S. military drills that you and I have also talked about here on this show?
I don't think so. I think this is more tied to closer cooperation between, again, China and Russia. Russia has more or less always had a very strong sense of participation and signs of aggression up in the Arctic region, and China has really now allowed Russia to maintain their military presence and a military lead, but they're playing a supporting role here. But the fact that they did a joint maritime task force in coordination that started several weeks or so ago and ended up, up near the shores of Alaska in a very effective show of display of force and coordination is, again, this is unprecedented. Now, the United States responded with 4 U.S. Navy destroyers and Navy maritime patrol aircraft and so forth. And so we provided, I think, a proper and effective response. This isn't the first time that the Russians and the Chinese have operated in the maritime domain. They did so back in September of last year, where they had 7 ships there. I believe there were 3 Chinese ships and 4 Russian ships. So this is a larger force, a larger demonstration of close cooperation between the Russian and the Chinese navies.
Yeah, and we've been watching it by sea, also by air. Back in April, the U.S. Intercepted those 2 Russian fighter jets near Alaska, and it just seems like we keep on seeing more and more of those soft confrontations between the United States, Russia, and China. And it seems like inch by inch they do get bolder and more daring. What should we make of how each side keeps on flexing its muscles here?
Well, it is really, we're in a new era of aggression here. If you recall the Chinese spy balloon back in early February of this year, you recall just a couple months or so ago when you've got the Russians trying to down a U.S. MQ-9 drone over the Black Sea. You've got them trying to do the same over Syria. You've got China also flying close to our patrol aircraft in international airspace and near international waters and so forth. So this is planned. This isn't something that's just they're doing, as an opportunity that they see come their way. This is a planned, close cooperation. Now, the U.S. needs to maintain, again, our efforts to thwart and deter the Chinese and the Russians from operating together, much less independently, that we show this force. We bring out our surface combatant ships to again, dissuade them from entering, obviously, U.S. international waters or U.S. waters. Sure. So I think you're going to see more of this also as this competition plays out. This isn't going to be just something that we will have recalled in our recent memory. I think this is the way you're going to see this great power competition move forward over the next several months, probably into 24 and 25.
Yeah. Russia and China knew exactly what they were doing here. General Richard Newton, thank you so much, as always.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television. now to new military tensions between the U.S., China, and Russia, with the U.S. Navy sending destroyers to the coast of Alaska last week after nearly a dozen Russian and Chinese warships were spotted patrolling nearby international waters, very nearby. Weijia Zhang is at the White House for us with more on what all this means. Weijia, good morning.
Good morning to you, Tony. Good morning to everybody. Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan called the size of the Chinese and Russian joint operation unprecedented. He says the U.S. deployed 4 Navy destroyer ships near the Aleutian Islands in response to those 11 Chinese and Russian warships near U.S. waters. The U.S. Northern Command says the Chinese and Russian patrol remained in international waters and wasn't considered a threat. But the show of force is a reminder of the cooperation of Chinese and Russian militaries, as well as how close the countries are to Alaska. A similar joint exercise took place last year in September. The U.S. Coast Guard encountered 7 Chinese and Russian ships near Alaska, all in a single formation. Now, China and Russia have increased their ties amid tensions with the U.S. over Taiwan and Ukraine, making situations like this more alarming. In a statement to other media outlets, the Chinese embassy said this patrol was part of an annual cooperation plan and has nothing to do with the current international and regional situations. Nate?
Weijia, thank you.